when do you scope in versus like when do you stay unscoped? All right. So today we're going to do a VOD review of a Silver Ana player. Silver Ana. Oh, there we go. On Oasis. 1800. Let's see, do they have any notes? I recently took a 6-month break from Overwatch and came back a week ago, and I would like to get back into the game. I have a physical disability, so I can't really improve my aim. I would just like to know when to do what and improving my positioning. All right, that's actually, yeah, that's very straightforward. I think we can, I'll definitely try and kind of cover that and stick to that. So, all right, before we get started, let's talk about the comp really quickly. Just give your other character in your team a moment to pick. So, I looked through some of my past VOD reviews, and I think for future, like going forward, and obviously if you have any other thoughts or comments, let me know. You can DM me or just comment down in the comment section. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on talking about team comps a little bit less and focusing on what this means for you. So like as an Ana player, how is this relevant to you? So I'll talk about team comps, but I'll try and make it even quicker because I don't think that helps as much as what is your job? What should you be thinking about and worrying about like in this match going forward? So we'll see how that works out. All right, real quick. Tank-wise, you guys have Reinhardt and Winston. This is a really odd combo. This is... Yeah, I think this is just due to kind of like hero bans. Maybe Zarya's banned and they don't know what else to play. But yeah, this is not stereotypically a combo you would see. And I'm not sure how to define that either. I would... It doesn't really have any definition because Ryan would be Brawl and Winston would be Dive. So DPS-wise, you guys have Junkrat and Soldier. Both are reasonably good. That's probably Poke. And then you have, healing-wise, you have Lucio and yourself as Ana. Also a decent composition. Lucio can do a really good job to peel for the Ana. Ana can get massive heals. But all right, so I'll take like one sentence to talk about your team comp. I don't know what you guys are. You're definitely a hybrid. You're probably more leaning towards Poke just because of your DPS. So I'm tempted to think you guys are more Poke than anything else, but I would definitely have to like talk about this comp more in depth to really figure out where it is and what its playstyle. But like I was saying, I'm going to focus more on what's relevant to you as the Ana player. So in this team comp, something you should always do in general if you're playing Overwatch, but especially as Ana or Ana, I'm probably going to switch between those, so hopefully that doesn't get annoying. But as Ana, something that's really important is to figure out who are you going to nano, because Overwatch is really, really fast paced, and a lot of times, especially during a chaotic team fight, if you think about it, it's usually too late. So your nano options are, let me just grab a different color. I've used all the good colors up. No. Your nano options are essentially Soldier, Reinhardt, and Winston. And obviously, you can nano the Junkrat or the Lucio if they needed it for some reason. But realistically, you nano one of these three people for a couple different reasons. Obviously, Soldier has Tac Visor, which is super good with nano. Ryan can swing his hammer, get massive value out of that. And Winston, you really wouldn't want to nano him if he had ult, or if he was using ult. You'd want to nano him to get like massive value in the backline, so he could kill things because you guys don't have, because you're not, oh, excuse me, because you're not running dive. Winston will be the only one diving into the backline. Maybe Junk can put some pressure, but Winston's really the only one diving into the backline. So you'd nano him then to get a kill on their supports or something like that. Heal wise, what is your job heal wise in this composition? Right now, I think your job heal wise is probably to primarily heal the tanks. I'm going to assume that your Lucio is going to more or less stick with your Winston and try and move him around. Maybe he'll stick with your Ryan too a little bit. But your main priority heal-wise, let me just get rid of some of these, is going to be to heal probably your Reinhardt, because the Lucio won't have enough heals to heal your Reinhardt without using Amp, and he's going to need to save Amp to move people around. Your Winston, because again, your Lucio doesn't really have enough. Now, the only thing with Winston is because your Winston probably will like to dive, this means that positioning is incredibly important, obviously as Ana, and I'm sure I'll talk about that because I know that's one of the things you wanted help with. But more importantly, high ground positioning is important for Winston because you can't follow him, and obviously when he dives, he goes past a couple walls or past their tank line, so you may not have line of sight with him if you're on the ground. So that's something to consider. And hopefully, heal-wise, this is all you really have to heal, like really pay attention to. Soldier should have his own biotic field, so he should be okay. Junkrat shouldn't take too much damage. Maybe you'll have to heal him a little bit, but he is probably going to be slightly flanking, you know, trying to get some value that way. So, all right, enough about that. Let's start the VOD. So yeah, this gets a bit rough because your Winston split off. Okay, so a couple of different things are happening here. Let me actually just go into Overwatch really quickly, because there's a couple of things we have to talk about. Because, you know, as you requested, you can't really improve your aim, or not that much. That's not something you want to work on, which is completely fine. I obviously, to help you get better with this VOD review, I'm gonna have to kind of talk about other aspects in more detail or in more depth, so you have a better understanding of them and you can rely more on them and less on aim, which is fine. And at the moment, I actually haven't seen any problems with your aim, but it's been like 2 seconds, so.
Welcome to Oasis.
All right. Is this? Yeah, this is the right map, I think.
Fighting for what you believe
I think my Overwatch is actually a little loud, because I play with it obviously much louder than I record with it on. Even now it might still be a little loud. Hopefully that's okay. So yeah, so essentially what happens here is your team goes in, your Reinhardt goes in main, your Winston kind of dives, I assume high ground, and this presents you with a couple of odd options, because like I said, you are the main healer, so you're kind of responsible for both tanks. So immediately you're put into crisis about, where do I position? So you kind of opt to position here, which is actually not a terrible position. This is really good. You have a lot of sight lines, especially if you stay back a little bit, because you can sit here. You have access to the mini, because like health packs are a really big deal for Ana, because you don't want to be using your biotic grenade to heal you unless you absolutely have to, because it has so much value as an anti-heal. But you could also position here if you need to heal the Winston high ground, or you can kind of just peek a little bit because you have another mini here. Or obviously, which would be theoretically more preferable, I think in the specific scenario that you were in, it was fine where you position. But obviously, so the thing with high ground is, as Ana, you don't have time to come to the high ground and try and contest it and heal your team. So, although you want to take high ground position, and I always recommend you take high ground position, someone else either has to be contesting it for you, or the enemy team has no way of getting to the high ground, which obviously isn't true with this point, because you have the little bouncy pad, and I'm pretty sure they have characters that can get to the high ground, teleport up here and whatnot. So if you do position high ground, you need to have a teammate, like a Winston player, kind of transition to the high ground to clear it for you, for lack of a better term, to kind of hold the space. But this would be a really good spot to position, because no one can get you up here. You don't have to focus. But then the next thing I want to talk about, which is really important, because you start doing this right away. So you kind of start with scope shots. Now, I'm sure I'm probably going to talk about this later in the video as well, but there's a lot of tech with Ana scope shots, and I'll talk about that later. I'm sure I'll see something, and I'll go in depth on that, because like I said, I want to go more in depth on tech with Ana and other stuff, so, you know, to help with, so you don't have to worry about aim, to other things to work on. So when do you scope in versus like when do you stay unscoped? Because obviously your FOV, so like I'm unscoped now, I can see the whole point. When I scope in, I can only see a much smaller portion of the point. Your FOV gets a lot smaller when you scope in, which is fine, because obviously the scope adds benefits of it's instant heal, because your shot is there instantly, as opposed to like travel time. There's travel time on the unscoped shot. And a bunch of other stuff, which I'll talk about. But when do you scope in? Because it's incredibly important. So right here, you scope in to take some shots, which is okay. Like if you have to and you feel like you need to do that to hit, like aim-wise, you need to do that. But you kind of have no, when you're scoped in here and looking to help your team, you have no clue what's happening over here, up here. Like your Winston jumped in and you have no idea if he's taking pressure or taking damage. So unscoped shots would be very good here, unless you like absolutely need to hit someone. And if you absolutely need to hit someone to heal them, you know, you can just quick scope, which I will talk about in the future, because I'm sure it'll come up. But yeah, I just wanted to start that conversation of when you scope and when you unscope. Because yeah, your Winston takes a ton of pressure up there. But it's even it's the same thing. Like if you feel like you have to scope to hit your shots, obviously that's fine. Scope to hit your shots. But during that time when you were shooting the Winston, you have no clue what's happening on the other side of your team. See, like that hog flanked all the way around without you even noticing that he was there, simply because you were shooting so many scope shots. Like he could have hooked you and you'd be dead here. And so like that's like another small symptom of positioning, where you're standing here, which is good because you're not with your team, but there's no reason to not be here, you know, back here. Obviously, preferably you'd be high ground, but there's no reason to be all the way back here. You know, because the other thing with Ana is the better your positioning is, the less you have to, unless they have flankers, but the less you have to worry about kind of getting killed and getting flanked. So if you're sitting here, you have the luxury of being able to scope in, because when you scope in, your awareness goes down like tenfold. Like right now, I can't see any flanks being scoped in. But right now, I can see that flank. And, you know, I can almost kind of see this flank. But when I'm scoped in, I can't see any flanks right now. So your awareness increases a ton. So that's something else to keep in mind when you're using Ana's scope. You want to make sure that you're in a position that's safe. And this position right here, although it's better than being like right here, right in the middle of the brawl, because you definitely don't want to do that as Ana, and has no extra value to being right on top of her teammates. It's not as good as being, you know, even just slightly back, a couple of feet back here. And like, yeah, if someone on your team who's over here needs heals, this is like milliseconds to just rotate. You can heal. But for the enemy, if they want to then rotate here to kill you, that's seconds they have to take to walk from here to here. Where it takes you, you know, if you need to heal someone, just milliseconds to just kind of peek that corner. So yeah, you're kind of walking forward into your team. Definitely not something you want to do. Just sit. Yep. Sit, you know, just sit all the way in the back here. If you have to do scoped or unscoped. And you have a little mini right here in case you need to get heals. So, yeah, knowing where health packs are and kind of abusing that is incredibly important on Ana. Like, there's no reason to walk forward to heal your Rhine here. This is incredibly risky. Flanking as Ana is almost never a good idea for a number of different reasons. First of all, especially as the main healer for your team, you do need to heal your team a lot. I see what you're trying to do, get a nice sleep, probably get a nice nade, which is obviously always great. Playmaking as Ana is huge, you know, win tons of fights for your team, and I always suggest you do that. But it's a question of how do you play make, and what ways do you play make. When when you flank to do this, it's not really playmaking. And then even if you want to, you want to make a play, which is fine. I respect that. You guys won the point. You don't have to walk forward here to try and hit people. You can just sit in the back here. You can sit back here. Takes enemies a lot longer to get to you if you're back here as opposed to if you're all the way up here. But you can essentially do the same thing, If you wanted to throw a nade, you could throw a nade. If you wanted to get that nice sleep, you could attempt that nice sleep. Even though I'll talk about like Ana playstyles in a little bit because yeah, if at higher ranks, if Ana uses both nade and okay, we can talk about that. If Ana uses both nade and sleep, she's pretty much a free kill. Just because she has no way of defending herself unless the Lucio's really peeling for her in this scenario. But so I want to talk about what just happened here. Ana's one-shot combo is no longer a thing. So you can't, and that's just due to changes that they made with how sleep works on waking up. So it used to be when you slept someone at the end of the animation, you could do damage to them and they would wake up slower, like the normal time. There wasn't a faster wake up time, but now that's no longer the case. It's all a faster wake up time. So when you sleep someone, I think someone is mowing the lawn outside. I don't even know, or just a really loud car. When you sleep someone, there's no scenario where you want to walk forward to nade them or to shoot them. There's no advantage to that anymore. And even because I think it's worth talking about. Even if you do want to nade them, Ana's nade actually is a fairly long range. It's like the splash distance. Like I don't think you had to heal yourself in that situation, so it wasn't applicable. But the splash damage from Ana's nade is like 5 meters. So we can pretty much throw this on the line, and that'll do splash damage to that target. So if you think about it, you could throw the nade here, and you could stand back here, and you'd still receive the effects from the nade, and you'd anti the. So like the nade splash radius is really big, so there's no reason, like there's no longer any reason as an Ana player to walk forward to try and get a nade or get an extra shot off. So yeah, so like right now this is kind of a perfect scenario of what we were talking about before, like. Because you went in so close, it's now incredibly hard for you to back up. And you're probably dead here. Nice melee. Well, your team came and helped you, which is really, really nice. And also, you'd use both abilities at that point, which is fine because you're trying to get an anti on the Reaper. I understand and respect that. But so, you could have... To a better Reaper... Oh my gosh. To a better Reaper, you probably would have been dead there. But what an amazing sleep. Man, what a clutch. Okay, I wanna talk about this real quick. Let's talk about the Ana Roadhog matchup for a second. So, essentially, each character has 2 abilities, like in the matchup. Ana has sleep, Ana has nade, Roadhog has hook, Roadhog has vape. So, what you're gonna want to do in this scenario, especially, if you sleep the Roadhog, if you know the Roadhog has used hook and you sleep him, you're in a real good position. If you sleep the... Hold up, I have to write this out, otherwise this will make less sense. So... Sleep... Nade... Oh, vape... Hook. So, here's the way the Roadhog Ana matchup works. If the Roadhog has used hook, so if he's already used hook, you then use sleep. If the Roadhog has not used hook, although you can sleep, it's very much less effective. Obviously, unless your whole team is there to capitalize on it, but we're talking about the matchup, not about like follow up and whatnot. You want the Roadhog. You're in a rough position because if you sleep the Roadhog before he uses hook, he's just gonna get up and hook you, and there's nothing you can do. So you have to figure out how to dodge hook, which you essentially did a really good job here by sleeping him. If he uses hook, then you sleep, And then you wake him up, whether by shooting him or whatever, and then most Roadhogs by default will then vape, which is a mistake on their part, and then you nade. You want to nade during the vape so he doesn't get the benefit from that. Because Roadhogs will play around their vape, or their... I don't even remember what the ability is actually called. I just call it vape. They'll play around that, like foolishly, especially, lower SR Roadhogs. And they'll just vape as a gut reaction right after they've been slept. So don't use your nade to wake up a Roadhog. Unless obviously you have follow-up and your team's going to beat him up anyway. If that's the case, then fine, go for it. But in like this scenario where there is no follow-up, let him vape, because then he'll waste that cooldown. So just shoot him to wake him up. Although on a less matchup level, there is actually no reason to wake the Roadhog up. That just letting the Roadhog sleep just gives you time to reposition. So like right now, he got up, and yeah, he doesn't have hook, so it's not that big of a deal, but he got up and you didn't position anywhere else, which is a huge mistake on your part. Because if he hadn't had hook, and like you didn't have that epic sleep, he would have just hooked you right now, and you'd be dead. So yeah, you definitely take this, like, now that we talked about the matchup, you slept him, just take this right now as an opportunity to reposition. Wherever you wanted to reposition to. Can we actually make heroes faster? Where is that? Movement speed. Sorry, just to make this a little quicker. But yeah, just take this as an opportunity to reposition yourself.
Never stop fighting for what you believe in.
Dang it, I just hit tab on freaking. Yeah, so epic sleep, great job. Take this as an opportunity, even though this is in a great position, to reposition yourself. If you want to position back here, which still sucks because the hog's up there, so you probably have to reposition over here. Just move. Don't stand here. Yeah, it's... Oh. All right. Yep. Talked about that. It's good that you're not standing still while you're healing, and it's also good you're using unscoped shots, just in case you didn't know. Unscoped Ana shots do two different things. A, they don't reveal your location, which isn't a big deal in this scenario, but sometimes that is a big deal. And B, they are technically slightly a little bit faster than scope shots. So you can do a little bit more healing. Oh, this is tunnel vision right here. You heard your Junkrat saying he needs healing. What would that sleep have done? We'll talk about that sleep. Yeah, that was definitely a little tunnel vision that you're just trying to hit those sleeps, hit those shots. And the other thing to consider here is like your positioning is no longer that good because the enemy have a direct line of sight to you. So from a top-down view, you're here, your team is here, and the enemy is here. And essentially this is true because, whatever, this is the point, goes like this, and then there's a little circle in the center. But the enemies are high ground, so like they have a top-down view. So right now you are in direct line of fire because the Reinhardt shield, your Reinhardt shield is right here. So you're in direct line of fire here. So you definitely don't want to be positioned here, especially when they have high ground. So maybe shift back kind of that way. But yeah, you can't play right here. It's kind of a suckish thing because you don't have any there's no real other great places to position. Obviously high ground is a great place. Where you are is normally a really good place, but nice nade to get an anti on the Reinhardt. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about. Sorry. sorry, I know I saw this and I went on a tangent and I forgot about it. Why you get tunnel vision. So you get tunnel vision here for a very specific reason. Because you want to hit a sleep. But let's kind of talk about Anna's abilities. Because they're incredibly important to Anna. I mean, always, but even more so now. Because I don't think your Lucio's peeling for you at all. And I don't think... you don't seem to have any real help from your team. Like, for you specifically. Which is fine. You know, that those kind of games happen. So... like, sleep is such a valuable asset for you because it's like a save a life ability or a kill ability in a sense, where if you sleep someone and they're in a bad position, your team can kill them. If you sleep someone who is trying to get to you or trying to kill you, you can now leave. But you decide to kind of sleep, but even if you had slept someone here, I mean, maybe if you had slept the Mercy, but again, that's pretty low chances. There is no follow-up. Like, yeah, we can see the Winston diving up there because we can see through walls, but I don't think you could have seen the Winston diving up there. So you were just looking for a sleep for a sleep's sake, as opposed to maybe letting their Reinhardt drop down and then trying to sleep the Hog, or trying to sleep, you know, because if you let the Reinhardt drop down, you sleep the Hog, your Reinhardt can engage on their Reinhardt, you'll get value out of that. So you got to get more valuable sleeps. Oh. Or even you could have slept that charging Reinhardt. Would have been super pog for your Reinhardt. Like, yeah, your Reinhardt survived handily here, partly because you hit a really nice nade and a couple other things, but he, you know, you don't know what could have happened. So yeah, don't be afraid to nano your Rein here. Because, like, we talked about, like, who do you want to nano? And our the couple of targets were, you know, Soldier, Reinhardt, Winston, are kind of our acceptable targets. We couldn't, I don't think at this point in time we could see Winston. We didn't know where he was going. But yeah, feel free to use nano, unless you have a very specific reason to hold it. You go, oh, we're going to nano blade, or we're going to nano visor, or you have some very specific plan. Or we're going to use nano to negate some enemy ultimate or something. Unless you have something very specific, don't be afraid to use nano. If someone critical could die, or if it enables someone to make a big play. Like, yeah, your Reinhardt here got super lucky. He hit the pin on the enemy Rein, and that went stunningly well for him. But realistically, you could have just nanoed him, and he could have just walked forward and swung his hammer, and he would have killed just as many people. So... yeah, because you're just nano the Reinhardt, let him go. So, like, you don't really want to be here. Like, your team pushed forward, which is really good. But what that means for you, as an Ana player, like, you see your team push forward. Maybe you just want to rotate through here, and you still want to sit in the back. You don't want to be stuck here with your team, because, like, when they push back, or when the enemy team comes here, there's no advantage to you being here. There's only disadvantage, and the disadvantages are obviously it's easier for the enemy to kill you because you're not far away. They don't have to use resources or cooldowns to get to you, because that's the hope as Ana. The reason you position far away is because A, you have a scope, so it's fairly easy to heal people from far away, but B, the enemy has to give up something to get to you. And whether that's a cooldown like a Genji dash, or even just time, whether that's 5 seconds for them to flank, they gave up something to get to you, which is an advantage to you. Or, you know, maybe they use a cooldown, maybe they use time. But yeah, you could sit all the way back here and kind of shoot and just kind of keep backing up as your team backs up. Because I'm assuming your team, unless your team's going to hold door right here, which I don't think so, because your team doesn't seem to be very aggressive that way, but normally you would actually hold door. And if you hold door, you can kind of sit here. But yeah, you can just keep backing up. So, yeah, you're a little bit too close here. You know. And you see you're kind of getting caught where you're in the middle of a fight, and now it's incredibly hard for Ana as a character to heal in the middle of a fight, just because, you know, she can hit the wrong person. It's not like she's Moira, where it's just like, oh, well, let me just hold right click or hold left click, and it's super easy, much harder. And then the other thing is, especially in your specific scenario, another great reason to not be right on your team is it's probably harder to do these crazy flicks because you have to move your mouse farther. It's probably easier to be farther away and do smaller movements, like smaller mouse adjustments, to hit people. Unlucky. And yeah, you guys, that's... Oh, there, Reinhardt. Yeah. So, like, there wasn't much you could do in that situation. Like, obviously, if you had been in a better position, you wouldn't have been shattered, which would have been great. You could have hit a nade to heal your team, but I'm pretty sure they would have died anyway. And that's not the point. Like, some fights are unwinnable, and, that was kind of one of those fights. It was just unlucky, and just go again. Don't let it get you down. Don't let it get the team down. Don't let it turn the morale around. But, in a different fight, maybe you staying alive could have won that fight. So... Oh, okay, he's ready to do... You guys are ready with sound barrier. You guys have a bunch of ults here. So now you should really be thinking about who do you want to nano. You have a couple options. You could nano Visor, which is fine, especially if Soldier can get to high ground. That's massive value. You could nano Reinhardt, because their Reinhardt use Shatter, so your Rein has a free Shatter, or can just swing into their Reinhardt without worrying about it. Don't use Nade as a substitute for poor aim. Like, I know aim, you have a little bit of trouble with that, but Nade is too powerful of an ability. Don't use it for, like, kind of mass heals. Like, use it... If you're going to use Nade on your teammates, the only reason you do that is if you needed more healing to keep them alive. So they get caught in a grav, you nade them because you need to heal them to keep them alive. You have a Bastion, the shield breaks, the whole enemy team is focusing the Bastion. You need to nade your Bastion for that increased healing when you heal him to keep him alive. But, like, that's it. Other than that, antis are really good. So. Super tunnel vision here. The Winston jumps in. I'm happy you threw the nano in, which is good. I don't know who you threw it on to. But the Winston jumps in and you don't even flinch. But you should be going high ground with your Soldier here. Like, yeah, your team kind of already cleaned up, which is really great of them and Pog, but you should be high ground right now. Oh, well, maybe not, because they have teammates up there, but theoretically you should be high ground up here. And even right now, you still don't want to be in this position. You just want to be back a lot farther. So, again, like I said, Ana has no direct benefit to being in the fight. So, like, anything you could do from here, like, even if you're trying to get a sleep on that McCree, you could do that from back... Well, this position still kind of sucks because you can't see a lot of the point, but you could do that from over here. You could still get your nice sleep on the McCree. And you just do it with less danger to yourself. If you sit here, the McCree drops down, or McCree headshots you, or Winston drops down and starts Tesla cannon, whatever. Like, you do it with less risk to yourself. Nice sleep on the Winston. Don't wake him up. Okay, I think you threw this down to splash yourself because you saw heals, but you were going to throw that nade on the Winston to wake him up. What value does that provide to you? You just let him sleep up there and you cap the point, Unless you can kill someone, there usually isn't a reason to wake them up. Like, sleeping someone just to wake them up without being able to kill them or have, like, some reason to do so, just let them sleep. That's just extra time that they're not bothering you. And in this case, it didn't matter because your team had killed enough people where you weren't going to lose. As unlucky sleep. Just an odd flick, I guess. It's fine. No reason to walk forward towards a Reinhardt. He is a big hammer. Your nade, like I kind of demonstrated before, your nade can hit yourself and the enemy Reinhardt from a much farther distance than right on top of them. No reason to walk forward into a Reaper here. Even here, you're just... Yeah, there's no reason to walk forward. Neighbor's a bit of a waste, but... No reason... You are way in front of your team. Even though this is where your team should be holding, that's besides the point, because they're not holding here. So as an Ana, You can't walk in front of your Reinhardt shield. That's just a death sentence. So, I think your team will probably still hold this because you're up by so many. But yeah, don't throw at the end of the round. Definitely, yeah, just play back. Even if you think the round is over, it's never over until it's really over. Going for that nade. I respect it, but I don't think that's the place for the nade. I think it's a little bit higher, but that's okay. It's not. This is decent positioning. Okay, so you sleep the Winston, who's ulting, so obviously you don't want to have to deal with him, but you sleep him during a Rhine Shatter. So Rhine Shatter, I think, is like 2 or 3 seconds where the people are shattered, maybe 2.5 seconds. I don't know the exact timing. And what you want to do with this is, like, obviously your team's not going to be able to kill the Winston. And your team's not going to focus this Winston here. They're going to focus the squishies. So you want to let the Winston be shattered. And then at the end of the Rhine Shatter, you know, right before he gets up, or even at the very, very beginning of the animation, you want to sleep him because now he's asleep for another, you know, couple of seconds, which is really, really good because it allows your team to do other things. Or if they want to kill him, it allows them to make that decision. If you sleep him right away, you lose the value of the sleep and the shatter because you don't get as much time. The later you sleep him, the more time you get where he's immobile. I think the concept is called chain CC, where you use one CC, then use another CC, and then another CC, and another CC on a character. Like, this happened a lot with GOATs, which is why a lot of higher ranked players got frustrated, like Reinhardt's, because they would just get brig stunned and punched and, you know, frozen and shattered and the whole 9 yards, graviton. But yeah, I think the concept or the term chain CC, I think it comes from League of Legends, but yeah. And yeah, you definitely don't want to throw a nade. I know you weren't throwing it at the monkey, but be very, very careful. Because you want to deal with a ulting monkey when the appropriate time is. And that usually is after you've killed a couple other people. So like a better monkey could have just killed you here, you know. This monkey's not really great with juggling with his ult, which is fine, but, you know. Oh, yeah, you do die. You do die from this, which is, you know, unlucky and kind of a classic symptom of don't wake the sleeping ulting monkey if there's something else you can do that's more productive to help win the team fight. I would still be pretty surprised if your team don't. Oh, maybe you guys don't. You guys have no heals. That is incredibly... So yeah, at this point, I'm pretty sure the fight is lost for you guys. You lost the Lucio. You've lost 2 people. Pretty sure everyone's dead. So just back out. Yep. Great job. So this is an awkward conversation to have. You back out, but you don't really back out, which is fine. Because you don't have to go all the way back to spawn, obviously. But you don't want to sit here. Simply because I doubt the enemy team's going to push, because I just don't think that happens at this rank. But at higher ranks, 100%, the team will come all the way to here and just look for picks. You know, look for extra damage when people are coming in spawn. So yeah, you're probably going to want to hide over here. Or even, like, I think what you're trying to do now, hide back here. But yeah, don't stand out here. I'm assuming you're like talking to your teammates or something, saying regroup, and you're a little distracted, and that's why that's happening. But yeah, just try and get out of that habit of hiding in plain sight. Yeah, it just looks like you guys are chilling, which is cool that you guys are grouping up. Definitely the right call. So like you could just nano your monkey here. Although he didn't really dive anyone, which is whatever, but that's, you know, that's on him. But like, oh, or unless you're going to try and nano soldier. So, but like, this is something to think about, like during that time when you were regrouping, like, who am I going to nano? I mean, you could nano soldier, you could nano Rhine, you could nano monkey, but, you know, if you don't have a specific plan, just use it on someone that's going to get value out of it, that's going to need it. So when a monkey jumps in, just nano him. When a Reinhardt goes in and starts swinging, just nano him. Unless the soldier's going to go high ground and ult or something like that. I think that nade was meant for healing. Again, healing nades are not substitutes to bad aim. Even if you have struggle with your aim, Don't use your nade. Okay, so the plan was Nano Soldier, which is fine. If you can't kill him, don't wake him. You just slip that Doomfist to then shoot him. Your Junkrat's right here, so that your Junkrat probably can just one-shot him. But again, if you can't kill them, don't wake them. You get more benefit by letting them sleep and then, you know, figuring out something at the end of the sleep because you have more time to deal with other people to reposition. So don't just sleep something and immediately wake it. And your Junkrat still hasn't killed this Doom yet. This Doom is still 1 HP. Which is actually turning into even a bigger mistake, or a bigger travesty now, because your Junk is now focused on this Doom as opposed to doing damage to the fight here. Also, no reason to be in the thick of the fight here. Has no value to you. Something else that's worth noting, and I'll just kind of mention this because I don't think I'll have the opportunity to mention it, but if for some reason you are... This is like some tech for Ana, because I wanted to get some tech in here. If you're... Let me just shoot some shots. If you're in the middle of a fight, which you probably shouldn't be in that position, but if you are there and you do need to reload, so you're on your last shot, you need to reload, you can cancel the reload animation with melee as soon as you see the little 14 shots in your gun pop up. So instead of like waiting for the full reload, you can just... And now you have 14 shots. So you do a little bit of extra damage with the melee. I don't think it's any faster, so I wouldn't recommend always just canceling with a melee, but as opposed to like doing the full reload like this and then shooting, you can cancel it with a melee to get a little more damage in. But again, you don't really want to be with your team. You kind of want to be continually backing up as your team rotate. You can rotate with them, but just rotate at a different angle, like be farther away. Yeah, but your team cleans up here, which is fine. But yeah, anytime you get pinned by a Reinhardt, unless it's incredibly bad luck, it means your positioning was poor. So. Just stay here. Yeah, there's no reason to rotate forward. Again, if you can't kill them, don't wake them. Unless you have some very specific reason to wake them for something. Don't wake them. And especially, don't use nade on them if they're a Moira and you haven't seen Fade. If you are going to wake a Moira, just let her wake up. If she throws Healing Orb or something like that, then sure, you can use nade if that's what you're going to do, even though it's, again, using 2 ability cooldowns puts Ana at a lot of risk, like using both her sleep and nade. Or if she fades, let her come out of fade and throw a nade at her, because you can probably predict where she's going to go. So don't wake people up with a nade, or don't wake Moiras up with a nade. And the other thing is, since we're talking about Ana tech, add another one in here. So you have a shooting animation and you have a nade throwing animation, and you can actually cancel your shooting animation into your nade throw. So you can shoot and nade throw and have it be an animation cancel. So you can just be like... So you get both. Which is obviously not what you'd want to do for Moira, because you'd want to see what she does after you wake her up. But you theoretically should be able to shoot nade throw before she has time to use her abilities to get away. But again, that's probably, like I said, see what she does. Either let her fade and then throw nade, or let her throw a healing orb. Because if she throws a damage orb, you're going to want that nade to heal yourself. So you don't know what she's going to do. You gotta... And again, don't be walking around with your team. There's no reason not to kind of just stay in the back and keep healing. Don't make the same mistake again. You pretty much almost threw this point before because you went forward when you thought you guys had won the fight. Just stay with your team. Nicely the monkey, but just stay with your team in the back line. There's no reason to walk forward here. This gives you no advantages. It just gives you an opportunity to get picked. That's all it does. You just enable the enemy to spend less resources to kill you. Again, this would be the point where you're thinking about, who do I nano, who do I heal? Obviously, nothing has changed your team comp wise, so it's the same people, but if your team comp had changed, now would be the time to thinking about that. Oh, really nice. You're going to go high ground. Pog champ. So, like, this is really good because now your team kind of cleared high ground with you. So you're not up here alone by yourself trying to contest this thing and heal your team. So someone from your team is here helping you do this. No real reason. I guess you're trying to get an extra damage. That's fine. But usually there's no real reason for Anna to try and make these flanks. But yep. Just stay. Oh, no. Yeah, there's no reason to drop off high ground here until you're, like, forced off. If the enemy comes up behind you, then heck yeah, you gotta jump and move. But until then, just stay up there because you can then... Your Junkrat's still here. You know, your Junkrat's still up here on the high ground. So if you're up there, you can support him, and you can still heal your team from the high ground. You might have to use, like, this window over here, but you still should be able to do the majority of it from this other window over here. So, yeah, there's no reason to jump down here. And if you do jump down... Let's just go into Overwatch and do this. What's it? I think it's easier if I just kind of just run around and talk about.
Welcome to Oasis.
I think this is the wrong map.
Never stop fighting for what you believe
Yep. My bad. I haven't memorized what is what. Let's just go heroes, Anna. Yep. So let's just talk about this for a second. But yeah, so you go high ground, which is really, really good. Super great. You're up here. There's no real reason to try and peek and get extra damage. I mean, I guess if you want, you can, but you're better off just kind of sitting here. And then you kind of just sit. Oh, it's hard when you go fast. You kind of just sit here and heal your team. I mean, unless they sit right in that corner, then you'd have to be here. But then you have more... The enemy has more visual on you. But yeah, you just sit here. Oh, it's so hard with this much speed. Then you just sit here and heal. And if your Junkrat needs assistance, you can kind of help him out. If you do have to drop, although you can drop and sit in here, if the enemy's above you, that's probably not the best position. You're probably better off trying to rotate over here, like by a mini, because now you have a mini to play with. And you can still usually heal your team, but then you do have to watch for flanks. So it's a weird thing, because you can also position out here. This wouldn't be a bad position either. You know, if you want to sit all the way back here. Although it's a little bit harder because you have to cross line of sight. Like, this is line of sight if the enemy's on point, so you have to cross that a bunch. So it's probably not quite as good, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what you do. And we'll talk about it. Okay, yeah, you decide to go back here, which is fine. There's no reason to go forward. You don't have to go forward to hit nade. Like I kind of shit demonstrated, nade has a big range. Let nade's range do its thing. But I respect that. You heard the fade, you waited for the fade, now you try and sleep. Which is okay. Yeah. You don't want to drop and chase a Moira. Pretty much ever. You don't really want to drop and chase anything, because right now... Let's see. From the time you dropped... Especially as the main healer. So right now, your team is in desperate need of healing. And I know the Junkrat just took that damage, I saw that. But let's continue to play, and we'll watch from the time you drop to the time you get back. Oh, okay, your Junkrat's getting healed, which is nice. How much heals your team actually needs. Yeah, so from the time you drop to the time you get back, at least they healed your Winston, which is really, really nice, but your Reinhardt now is in desperate need of heals, your Soldier is in need of heals, and... You know, your Lucio kind of carried you a little bit here because you don't know. If your Lucio had been flanking or doing other things, your team wouldn't have gotten heals and they would have been dead here. Yep, even this, like your Ryan can't hold an aggressive position because you're not healing him. So he has to back up, giving the enemy team space to walk forward. So, Definitely not good. This is definitely not going well for you right now. Like, this team fight's gonna be rough to win. Oh, that unlucky. You have to reload. Yeah. Again, be careful using sleep and nade. You use sleep and nade. I saw there were a bunch of people there, so maybe if you had hit nade, your soldier could have done something, which is fine. Definitely nade is for making plays, but yeah, you're super vulnerable. Also, there was no reason to cross back over here. You heal your Rhine. Yep, stay in the back. Don't walk forward. Miss a couple shots. Hit a nade. Again, no reason to walk forward to nade. But here, there's no reason to cross this. There's no reason to go across here. Like, you can just back out behind you. And help your soldier out. So, like, let me just... Because I think demonstrations are better, even though I'm fast Anna now. You shoot here, you know, you can nade. There's no reason to walk forward and nade. And there's no reason to cross this, because you're just crossing the line of sight. So what you can do is just continue to back out. And, you know, if your team needs heals, they'll just back out a little bit, and you can heal them. So... Yep, and then here you don't have sleep or nade to stop that Reinhardt or do anything. Not that it would have mattered, because at this point you guys just need to reset and wipe, but...
Old soldiers are hard to kill.
Again, right now you should be thinking about, who do I want to nano? Who do I want to nano? So, you know, if you want to nano the Rhine to let him swing, nano the Rhine to, you want to nano the monkey to help him, nano the monkey to help him. Yep, that's kind of unlucky. Could have nanoed your monkey there, you know. You can't, so here's the thing. You can use your nano as peel. So, you don't have the ability to, that your Winston was super low, you don't have the ability to heal him back up. You could nano him. That's an acceptable use of nano. Especially if you don't have any particular plans for it. You haven't already committed to something. Your soldier doesn't have visor. You haven't committed to your soldier. You're going to nano visor him. You haven't committed to your Reinhardt. You're going to nano visor him. You know, I don't think there was a plan that was made here. So don't feel obligated to use nano only when someone else is using an alt. You can use nano almost as like peel. Like, you don't have a time to dedicate to that Winston to heal him, or you don't have the ability to do that. So you just nano him. Just like a peel heal of a couple hundred HP and damage boost and damage resistance. Although that sleep did hit the Moira, which was really pog, I think you just kind of shot that into the abyss and see what happened. I would definitely caution against those kind of sleeps. You know, obviously sleeps can make mad plays, which is really, really cool, but yeah. Oh, your Reinhardt needs desperate heals. So, like, yeah, a more valuable sleep would have been sleeping that Junkrat as he came to get your Reinhardt. So, I think you're trying to nade the ground there. That's fine. Stuff happens. Again, this is kind of a sleep off cooldown to no particular purpose, but for no particular reason. The thing you have to remember as Anna is, as you go up, like in this particular game, it's not a big deal because there's no real flankers who are contesting you, so you can go for these big sleeps on Reinhardts and Reapers and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But as you go up ranks and as team comps change, the people will focus you, you know. And if you're sleeping kind of willy-nilly and, you know, wherever you know, into the abyss, so to speak, you know, you're not going to have sleep for when you actually need it. For when someone is flanking you and you don't have the time to take a duel with them because your team does need heals, you know, and you just need to hit a sleep and move on. So, yeah, it's incredibly important to really think about what's the purpose of your sleep. And then a further follow-up question is, if you hit that sleep, will there be any follow-up on it? Because all the times where you hit sleeps, even on that Moira, and she doesn't die, that was probably just a waste of ability. Now, you could probably make the argument, yeah, she can't heal during that time, which is definitely a valid argument, but, you know, if no one dies, at the end of the day, if no one dies in Overwatch, you know, you don't win the game. You win the game by cooking heads. You win the game by getting kills. So, yeah, definitely something to think about with your sleeps. You know, more about when do you want to use them, why do you want to use them, and like, if you need a rule of thumb, the rule of thumb is simple. Will this sleep get a kill or save a life? If it'll save a teammate's life, that's also fine. What's the actionable consequence of my sleep? Even if you hit or miss. Lucky you missed the soldier shot there, but that's fine. That's the way it goes sometimes. Very cautious positioning of you, which is kind of nice. None other Reinhardt, none of your monkey. Let him go in. Oh, well, not now. Yeah, so, yeah, try to avoid... Oh, even this sleep. Okay, wait, we're going to talk about this. Try to avoid using double support ults if you can, just because many times you don't need them. So, like, the Lucio used beat, you don't need to use nano, unless someone is really going to die, because people can survive off the beat. This sleep here, I think the thought process was, let's sleep the charging Reinhardt, but the Reinhardt didn't charge, so make sure you don't, you know, you aren't shooting asleep unless you know that Reinhardt's charging. You just ignore this Reinhardt on your right here, don't you? Yeah. So, okay, couple things. Again, no reason to walk forward with your team. This provides no advantage to you. And second of all, you saw the Reinhardt on the right, and you decided just to ignore him. He's now a huge liability. If he just walks forward and swings his shield, whew. Oh, nice shatter. But see, even this, like, obviously I don't think this wins you the team fight, but your nano enabled your Rhine to get a shatter because it allowed him to live longer, it allowed him to do stuff, and those are the kind of nanos that you want to have. Now, obviously, it was a little bit too late, it was the end of the fight, but that's, you know, different issue. So this sleep is... It is what it is because it's the end of the round. You're in overtime. You know, you're here in overtime, so whatever happens, happens. So I don't have a problem with this sleep. But even in theory, because like my goal is to get you to think about your sleeps, what value did that sleep provide? Like, I guess it did provide enough value that you slept a Zarya who now can't shoot you, which is Pog. Completely commendable, but... So something to think about. Now, obviously, if it is overtime, of course, use all your abilities. There's no reason not to. It's overtime. But on a normal basis, think about your abilities. Think about your sleeps. Just going to skip forward. Where the heck is this Reinhardt going? Where the heck is your Reinhardt going? You guys should just push him. Oh, nope. Okay. The thought was there of hit a massive nade, so that's good. I'm very happy with that. Having said that, you are ridiculously close to the enemy right now. Yep, shoot the Mercy, which is fine. It's unlucky your team didn't have any follow-up. There's no reason to be right on your Reinhardt here. Adds no value to your play. Just makes it harder for you. Good sleep on the Rhine. Even though, you know, wasn't super necessary. Oh boy, they have a Bastion. You know this is gonna get bad. You can shoot nade, like, animation cancel. So shoot nade, like I kind of explained before. Really nice. The nade killed him. He couldn't heal. No reason to be forward here. So, like, even if that sleep had landed on that Zarya, what benefit would you have gotten from it? Like, maybe you personally could have shot the Zarya and got 5% ult charge, which is always Pog. Ult charge is always good. But your team wouldn't have been able to kill because your team wasn't with you. So, wasted sleep. Sleep would have been much, much better on that Reaper here to relieve pressure, to prevent him from killing this Lucio. Even though I don't think he does, but that's just because he has poor target focus. Lucio's going for a boop. Your team cleans up, which is Pog. No reason to be here. Yeah, again, it's just kind of... no. Sorry. Control second. Yeah, there's no reason to be on top of your team, especially Xana. Adds no value. Look how fast I am. But yeah, you have so many options. You can sit back here. You know, because you're very safe back here. If you wanted to, you could sit up here. Obviously, less preferential. This is not as good of a positioning if they're going to come low ground, which seems to be their strategy for some reason, like over and over again. But if they're going to come main, this is decent. You know, you have a lot of nice point coverage. But yeah, don't sit here. Don't be in the middle of the fight. If you're within, like, if you ever have the opportunity to punch one of a friendly or an enemy, you are most likely way too close to the fight. So, I don't know how else to give a rule of thumb, but if you ever have the opportunity to punch someone at any given time, you're too close to them. So just sit in the back. Yep. Yeah, you're probably gonna throw a nade. It's unlucky it hits your teammates, but the thought was there. I understand that. Don't want to be here, but we already covered the positioning. I'm not going to harp on it more. Don't want to walk in front of your Reinhardt. Dangerous. Just nano your Rein. Oh, so yeah, you did miss the sleep there on their Reinhardt, which is something you should really be looking for when enemy Reins, like when they pin people, they're in a very particular pattern. Very easy to hit, very big hitbox. You should try and hit those sleeps somewhat consistently. And even though your team, I think your team cleaned up here because of the Junkrat tire, right? But okay, never mind. I didn't see he Junkrat tired. But even here, you could still nano your Rein. I think you kind of won the fight anyway because your Junk took out both supports, but no reason not to assert dominance. See, like, that would have been a good sleep. If you had slept that Zarya there, which was fine. She just kind of popped at your range. Your team would have killed it there. So that, I 100% I was for that sleep. Or that cooldown usage. But, yeah, don't stand in front of your Rein.
I will keep you healed.
You saw Moira fade, where you heard it. You're still in a weird position here. Pog, you got the nice nade, but I don't know. It's odd that your team's... Okay. It's odd that your team is taking a fight here. I guess it is what it is, and your team is just going to assert dominance, which is fine. But, and even with this, there's no particular reason why you have to... Like, yeah, you have beat, so you're not going to die here. But there's no reason you have to go 1v1 this Zarya up close. You can just sit back here and, you know, do your damage. So, yeah, definitely don't recommend walking up to people to 1v1 them as Anna. No reason to nade. You weren't nading anything in particular. I know you were down a little bit of health, but someone else could have healed you. Your nade's too important. That's fine, because I'm assuming... Oh, he doesn't have... That's fine, you can still nano him, that's okay. He doesn't have visor, I thought he had visor. But... Really nice sleep. No. Yeah. Don't wake him unless you can kill him. Like, yeah, you got the Mercy, which is super pog, but, he straight up could just stand up here and headshot you. Like, yeah, you got an anti, so he won't get heals off of it, and I'm sure your team will kill him. But this is kind of just a... Even though I'm sure in this scenario it turns out fine, in other scenarios it won't. So this advice is valid. So you can stand back, like I was showing before. You can be a very far distance away where you'll heal yourself and you'll nade the enemy. Just add more distance, which is better. But yeah, if you can't kill him, don't wake him. But yeah, your team finishes him off because, you know, he was already low. But like, if that had been in the middle of a chaotic team fight and you had woke him, he would have just killed you because your team would have been doing other things. That's fine. It is what it is. But even this sleep at the end was kind of unnecessary and cheeky. Um, like, yeah, it didn't matter because the game was over, but if someone had touch point, now you no longer have sleep. So this is kind of and I don't know. I always feel odd telling people to do this because you will watch your favorite streamer and they'll do this kind of stuff. But they do this kind of stuff, like they'll use their cooldowns at the end because they're they've been keeping track of who's been dying and how fast they can get back, and they're kind of smart enough to kind of know that. But this is just kind of a little risky. You seem to have this habit of at the end of a round walking forward to trying to be cool or whatever. And it lost you the first one of the other fights for at the very beginning of this VOD. So definitely kind of try and work that out of your system. That's I don't think that's helping you. All right, so I think because I always like at the end of a review. I know we've been going on for a little while here, but I like to talk about kind of 3 things to work on because I think to leave you with something. I think for you, the 3 things to work on is positioning, probably the most important. You know, especially if aim isn't really your forte and you struggle with getting better with it and whatnot, which is fine. Work on positioning. Make positioning your life. Never die. That should be your goal. Have positioning that's so good, you never die. So you get more value out of healing because you can heal your team for longer because you don't die. The other thing is nano. I think for you in particular, and really for a lot of Ana players, think about how you want to use nano. Before you start, think who am I going to nano? What are my nano targets? What are my nano situations? So you don't have to think of that during a fight, because I feel like you're not thinking of that, and you're just trying to figure out who's a good target to nano in the heat of the battle, and that's incredibly hard. So, and it is okay, especially if you don't have a specific plan to nano someone, to just kind of nano a monkey who's going to go in, nano a Reinhardt who's going to swing his hammer, nano someone to put pressure on the enemy team, nano a tracer to get some flank kills. Probably less tracer, better to nano tanks because they'll generally get more value, but that is okay. And the third thing is sleep dart. Think about when do you want to use it and what's the value of using it. So even if you hit the sleep dart, does it provide value? Does it save a teammate's life? Does it get a kill? What does it do? Where's the value of it? Where's the value of it? So shooting sleep darts off cooldown is probably not the best case scenario, because as you climb, you're going to get screwed a lot if you don't have your sleep dart, or you use it for something that has no value to it. So if you've made it this far in the VOD, PogChamp, if you'd like me to review one of your VODs, please post them to the Elohel Discord under the VOD request channel. Please tag me as well, Panda2050. I like to be tagged. This way I actually can kind of get a notification that they're there and that you want me to do them, because obviously it's not my job to review VODs, but since no one's been doing them, I try and get them to be done. But if you had someone else that you specifically wanted to do your VOD, this way it just lets me know that you wanted me to do your VOD, as opposed to me just looking through the list and doing them. And I'll generally do, if you tag me, I'll do people who tag me with more priority, because I know they want something reviewed by me. I'll put the links to everything in the description. I hope you've learned something. Best of luck climbing, and yeah, good luck.